जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन जमुना तीर वनचारी जमुना तीर वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे
भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। अंतर्द्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। समावेद भक्त वृंद की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे all glories to Shri, all glories to Prabhupada. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Gnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta-pada-kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavascha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and unto the feet of all Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, along with his elder brother Sanatana Goswami, as well as Raghunath Das Goswami and Raghunath Bhatt, Gopal Bhatt and Srila Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, along with Advait Acharya Gadadhar Srivastava and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani and Shri Krishna, along with the associate Shri Lalita and Vishakha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dīnabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. O my dear Krishna, ocean of mercy, you are the friend of the distressed and the source of creation. You are the master of cowherd men and the lover of gopis, especially Srimati Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrushabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye. I offer my respect to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold and who is the queen of Vrindavan. You are the daughter of King Vrushabhanu and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha krupa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desired trees, and they are full of compassion for the fallen souls. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. I offer my obeisances to Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Srivas, and all others in the line of devotion. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutare Shamate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Sarasdevam Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachate Sudharini. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna. Today is the 5th day. 2 more days to go for Saptaha. Please listen to every word that during these last 3 days we will try to explain you as much as possible from these books that exhibited right here to my left and right behind me. These are the books that we are reading and trying to convey it, bring it to your home, in your cell phone, in your computer, in the TV, wherever, through Facebook, Internet, and YouTube. Some of the intricacies of these visible and invisible elements of this universe were explained by the scientists in a simple and easy to remember formula like E equal to mc square. The vast ocean can be easily represented by student of chemistry simply by saying abbreviation H2O. Or most complicated mathematical problems can be solved by the formulas or equations like a square minus b square equal to, and subject called algebra. Similarly, you see here 12 books, 12 cantos of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, it's 335 chapters, 18,000 verses, and 576,000 words can be summarized in a single verse. In Sanskrit, that is called one shloki Bhagavatam. The beauty of one shloki Bhagavatam is that once you hear it, memorize it, and constantly recite it, its reflection in a prayerful mood, this concise form of shloka acts as a mantra and helps you reliving your mind. So let us begin today's session with one shloki. It is easy to understand, easier to explain, and easiest to memorize. And it goes like this. What I'm trying to say, that all these books, if you put all the verses together from first canto to 12th canto, the number of verses are 18,000, which are too many to memorize, understand, explain, and devote time for that. What happens that most of the people do not have so much time. So, this one shloki helps. One shloki Bhagavat is very, very helpful for the people who are extremely busy and therefore cannot spare much time for spiritual life. All that is required for them to listen to this verse, which describes nectarian pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna. Hearing this is a Shravana. After relishing it, next is Manan. After Shravana, next step is Manan. What it means? Receive a strong memory reflection after listening, and that is called Manan. It is imprinted in your mind. And lastly comes Nididhyasan. What is that? Keep remembering constantly in your mind without interrupting performance of your mundane activities. That is called Nididhyasan. In other words, always remember Krishna's names, forms, fame, qualities and pastimes, and never forget it. Ultimately, like we already explained, this verse or a shloka becomes and acts like a mantra. And for your spiritual life, it is very, very beneficial for you. So the verse goes like this. It is just one verse, like one tablet. If you see either is a vitamin or medication, if you read the label, it may have 10 to 15 different chemicals, and it just becomes a small capsule and it helps you. Same way, this particular verse you should listen, memorize, and then constantly keep it in your head. It's easy to remember, easier to explain. So it goes like this. Let's start now. Ado devaki devi garv jananam gopi gruhe vardhanam maya putan jivitapaharanam govardhano dharanam kansachedana kauravadihananam kaunteya satpalanam etad bhagavatam purana kathitam Shri Krishna Leelamrutam. So, starting from he was born from Mother Devaki, and he grew up in Gokul, Vrindavan, and his mission was that there were some and many asuras like Putana, Shaktasur, Bakasur, Dronasur, Agasur, Pralambasur, Arishtasur, Kansa, Keshi, Charu, Kavaliyapir. They were in body of Asura. There are 8,400,000 species. So their soul was trapped in a wrong body. And that's why they became like a burden on this earth. Not only they used to suffer, but they made this entire world every living entity miserable. So Lord Krishna wanted to give them liberation from that particular birth and from that particular body and get them back to Godhead. So that was his mission, and that's what he did. And in this particular verse, that was explained different pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna. This particular verse is a cream of all these 18,000 verses. Next, we are also going to talk about, just like this is one shloki, there is a chatushloki, means there are 4 verses and it acts as the same way. It has 4 verses versus this only one verse. But the knowledge of it is very beneficial for a devotee. It is said, Nachor-haryam, Nacharaj-haryam, Na bhratrubhajyam, Nacha bharakari, Vyaye krute, Vardhat eva nityam, Mantradanam, Sarvadanam, Pradhanam. So, the thieves cannot take away it from you. It is imprinted in your mind, this particular knowledge of Lord Sri Krishna, which is concisely represented through the particular Ek Shloki. It could be Chatushloki or Ek Shloki. But whatever knowledge you have, the thieves cannot take it away. Nacha Rajaharyam. There may be some government who is charging something from you. They have right to take away your property, your house, your land, your money. But Nacha Rajaharyam, this particular knowledge, if you get of Lord Sri Krishna, nobody can force you to give up. Na bhratrubhajyam. Yes, you may have brothers and sisters, and there may be little property left from your parents, your father or mother, and some kind of a house or little land or little money or ornaments, little saving, clothing, whatever. The custom is that brothers and sisters, they divide after the parents leave. But here it says, Na bhratrubhajyam. This knowledge that you have will always remain with you, because it is not divisible. You cannot divide it among brothers and sisters and family members with anybody. This belongs to you. Vyaye krute vardhat eva nityam. If I have $1,000 and if I spend $500, all I am left with is $500 because I spent $500 already. So, this particular transcendent knowledge, when I spend, when I share with others, when I preach and let people know all about Krishna, and I distribute it freely, still, Vyaye krute vardhata. Instead of reducing, my knowledge is increased. That's the beauty of it. Beauty of transcendent knowledge is, as you share, as you distribute freely, then it's increasing instead of decreasing. Sarvadhanam pradhanam. So, you may have gold and silver and diamonds and pound, ceiling pens, whatever, but nothing comes to be equal to transcendent knowledge. Some of these things, words that I just was singing about that verse, the verse may look very small. Any word you take from this verse, it may look insignificant. You may have imagined it to be a very insignificant or a smaller proportion. But these are the great words, because just because it is in a consigned form does not mean that it has a limited meaning. For example, Kaurava, the word Kaurava is given here. What it has to do with Krishna. So the story goes like that, where all our preaching about karma, Bhagavad-gita, Karma Yoga, and including the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and its pastimes. I'll tell you the story which everybody knows, that Duryodhana, his father Dhritarashtra, he was blind. Duryodhana, etc., they were like 100 sons of Dhritarashtra. What happened? That before many lifetimes, he was a hunter, and he spreaded a net in which a lot of birds got trapped, and then he set up a fire to that net after the birds were caught into that net. Because of the smoldering smoke and fire, the parents got blind, and 100 birds, they died, burned down to ashes. So this was the sinful activity. So when he was born as a Dhritarashtra, he was born without eyes. He had to born without eyes, he was blind. Although he married to a wife, and wife could see, she was not blind. But look at Krishna, the law of karma, that she decided, being a chaste wife of Dhritarashtra, she says, if my husband is going through this in his blindness, I should also put some bandage over my eyes, and I should also become blind. So this way, ultimately, husband and wife, they both were blind, that we can say, because one was really blind, the other one accepted the blindness voluntarily. And the 100 sons were those birds who got killed. Ultimately, on a battlefield of Kurukshetra, they all got killed. So, this is the law of karma. Now, we go further. When we think, we are thinking of parents, 2, 100 sons, 102, but no. I'll tell you, from the army or the Kauravas army, how many people were there on the battlefield, and how much killed, how many killed. So, if you look at the mixed unit of army, 1 battalion, which is known as Akshauhini. Akshauhini Sena means 1 mixed unit of army. So how many there on the battlefield as a Kauravas? 21,870 chariots. 21,870 elephants. 65,610 horses. 109,350 people who are walking as soldiers. So, when you multiply by 11, because Kauravas had 11 mixed unit army in this fashion, 11 of them. So, all these numbers must be multiplied by 11. And it comes in millions. Pandavas had the same kind, Akshani Sena, one mixed unit equal to 21,870 chariots. When you say chariot driver is a person. The 4 people may be occupying that vehicle, right? You have to count that. So you have to add it and multiply by 21,870, right? Just like in a car, we have 5-seater car. And there is a car crash, how many people die? 5. So, there were many. Pandavas although had not 11 times mixed unit of army, but they had 7 Akshani Sena. And one mixed unit, like I said, 21,807 chariots, 21,870 elephants. Just animals we are counting, but animal controller or a king sitting in a palking, we have not counted among them. We have to add those figures, the horses, and 109,350. There are 7 of these armies, so multiply by 7 comes into millions. And they all were fighting on battlefield. And they all were delivered because they died as a Kshatriya. They were performing that duty, like Krishna said in Bhagavad-Gita. So that when they died, they all went back to Godhead. Now, talking about Mahabharata, here I was just saying that Kauravadi Hananam, and that is included in Bhagavatam as one of the pastimes, that how Krishna helped Kauravas. So the story goes like this. Bhima, one of the sons of Pandavas, is Yudhishthira, Arjuna, Bhima, Sahadev, Nakul, all those 5 people. Among them, this person, Bhima, had some affair with one Rakshasi. She was a demoness and she begat a child through Bhima. So Bhima was a father of a son named Gatotkacha. So Gatotkacha was very strong. The reason Bhima was very strong, so when his father was strong, naturally the child Gatotkacha, he was also very, very strong. Apart from that, the mother's blood also helps. And she was a Rakshasi. She was a demoness. Very strong, very powerful, and in perfect mode of ignorance. So, Gatotkacha was a very, very dangerous asura. In those days, he was the most powerful asura. But he was in a different part of the world, living with the mother, growing up. When he heard about this Mahabharata, that there is going to be a war in my family, I belong to Pandava family, I'm a son of Bhima. He got very excited and he says, wow, this is great. I have so much strength, but there is no any event or incident where I can fight with somebody. This is the chance. I will go and join my family and I make sure that they win. So he had a soft corner for the family. He wanted to help. But Krishna knew that this person is out of control. If he comes, there won't be any justice. He will kill anybody. Doesn't matter he's a Kaurava or Pandava. He just wants to fight. And nobody will be able to face him. He will kill literally every single person. And he has that strength. Not only that, but we are talking about this particular kingdom of Hastinapur. That will be out of question, because once he wins, he will say, I am the king. So what is the use of bringing someone, even if he is going to help in the army or in the battlefield? So Krishna started walking towards where Ghatotkacha was coming from, and Ghatotkacha started his journey towards Hastinapur. Krishna and this demon both meet halfway, and Krishna puts his card right in front of him, and he says, listen, this is something between those brothers. I don't think we should be part of it. Even I am not going to fight. I won't take a part in fighting or anything. No. This is family affair. Maybe they will settle down, who knows. But don't get into this. You are too small for all that. They are all elderly people. They will, do whatever they have to do. But just like what I do, you also keep quiet. Don't take part. But he says, what's wrong if I come and look at the battle? I won't participate. It's okay? He says, yes, I will take you. So Krishna took him with him, and they surveyed this battlefield, and they wanted to find a perfect seat. If you want to go and watch the baseball in Flushing Meadow Park, you buy a good ticket so that you can see properly. You can see the umpire, the person who is batting, person who is bowling. You want to see everything nicely. So you bought a better spot, better seat. So you buy and spend more money. So they spotted a very tall tree. And Krishna says, Ghatotkacha, that's a spot for you. That's where you are going to be. You can have bird's eye view of both the parties, what they are fighting, who is winning, who is losing, who is cheating, who is not cheating, what's exactly happening. You can see from there. So I am going to build a little house over there on the top of the tree with all the facilities. It's not going to be like 1 or 2 days. It may happen up to 18 days. So be prepared. You are going to be up there, but you won't miss anything. And Ghatotkacha, that's perfect. So he got a best seat to watch battlefield and the war between Pandava and Kauravas. And like I said, all these chariots and elephants and horses and the army on the foot, and everybody started coming, and the view, the arrangements he was able to see. Pandava's army, although numerically smaller, appeared huge because its adoption of military array known as Vajravyuha. So Drishtadyumna, the disciple of Dronacharya, he arranged behalf of Pandavas, being a chief of army, Vajravyuha. It's a kind of arrangement which makes you look. Kauravas' army was like time and a half bigger than that, but still it looked tiny because they were just there. without much thinking. But here, whatever Dronacharya had taught Drishtadyumna, he tried to use that Vajra Vyuha. And finally, they are winning. Now, after winning, naturally, even a normal life, when something happens, then people try to figure out who did this, who gets the credit for that. So they all started discussing about the great war of Mahabharata. They were not able to come up with any names or anything, because everybody were good in fighting. Ultimately, Krishna says, okay, there may be somebody who needs our help, one who is wounded on the battlefield, needs a glass of water, still didn't leave the soul, and you should go and survey what's happening there. So they were looking at the dead bodies and dead animals and broken chariots and all the weapons lying around, and war was over. But everything was there as it is. And they stopped by at the tree. And Krishna says, you want to see something? Say, yes. Look up. And they found Gatotkacha. And Bhim recognized, oh, that's my sonny. Gatotkacha is also waving. And he thanked Krishna for giving such a wonderful seat so that he can see the army on both the sides. And he was a fighter also. He knew how to use the weapons, this, that. Only thing, because of Krishna, he didn't participate, but he was part of it mentally. Just like spectator is there, he may be knowing how to play baseball, but he's not playing, he's just watching the game. So, he asked Krishna, and he said, may I ask you a question? He said, yes, what? He says, Krishna, I was watching everyone from the Pandava side were shooting arrows towards Kaurava side. The people from Kaurava side also shooting arrows towards Pandava side. But the difference was that, let's say, example, Arjuna is shooting an arrow, and I was able to see that this is coming from that chariot where Arjuna and Krishna are there, and that arrow I could see going in the sky, going towards Kauravas. But I also used to see another arrow following Arjuna's arrow. Two arrows. Instead of every arrow being single arrow, I used to see another arrow following the first arrow. And when it comes to the target, 6 inches away from the chest of the person, the second arrow will take over the first arrow and will kill the person. Instead of first arrow shooting the person, the second arrow will kill. And I cannot understand. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Parthor Dhanurdhara, Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhuti, Dhruvar Nitir Matir Mama. Sanjay told Dhritarashtra, why you win? Because Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna. Yes, Arjuna was there. Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara. He was with Gandiva and arrows. But Yogeshwar Krishna, he expanded in so many Pandavas, and every arrow being a Yogeshwar. When the person is shooting, he was also shooting the arrow. And his arrow will go and kill the Kauravas. If Kaurava kills, nothing may happen. The destiny of the person who dies Only when God kills, he will go back to Godhead. Otherwise, no. So Krishna made sure that everyone on the battlefield dies with his own hand. And that's why he did this Leela, pastimes. So Kauravadi Hananam, right? Only one word. But everything is there. And that's why, let me sing this again so that you can memorize this. It's very auspicious to memorize Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. 18,000 verses may not be possible for you to hear, memorize, Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan, Sakshatkar. It may not be possible with all these 18 books that we are exhibited. But only one verse, which is only 4 lines, but it says everything that these books are telling. So those who are not interested in so much of books, that's okay. Listen to this particular verse. Ado devaki devi garva jananam gopi gruhe vardhanam maya putani jivitapaharanam govardhano dharanam Kansachedana Kauravadi Hananam Kaunteya Satpalanam Etad Bhagavatam Purana Kathitam Shri Krishna Leelamrutam. So now we go to Chatustaki, they call it, which are like 4 verses. Now, here Brahma was assigned. First day also we started this topic that Lord Krishna assigned Lord Brahma to create, Lord Vishnu to maintain, and Lord Shiva to annihilate the world whenever necessary. So, Lord Brahma accepted that responsibility and is promising Krishna, I will act instrumentally in devotional service by recreating the universe and generating the living entities. I know that I will have to create many varieties of living beings, and so I pray that by your mercy I shall not become proud, thinking myself to be supreme and thus fall into delusion. We just talk about delusion. Who won the war? Right? Whoever were there used to take pride, right? They were all egoistic. All of a sudden, once the war was over, the fear was gone, the life was guaranteed to them. Now next thing coming is boasting about themselves. I did this, I did that, I killed this many, I killed that many. If I didn't play like this, we would have lost, right? Everybody wanted to take credit for that. And Lord Brahma knew that when I create the way Krishna has laid out the plans, the world is going to be very beautiful, right? And then I will think, oh my God, look at the world, so beautiful. See what I did, right? But you don't know what I went through. I did this, I did that. So Brahma knew that I will be very egoistic once the responsibility is over. And he didn't want to be proud. So that's why he's praying, I shall not become proud thinking myself to be supreme and thus fall into delusion. He said, only thing you protect me from this mentality, unnecessary thinking about the I created. I am the boss. I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am Lord Brahma. I am the Creator. No. Krishna, please help me. It has not happened yet. I have not even started working on this job. So please help me. That time, Krishna is reciting Chatushloki. So, this is how it goes. Aham eva asme agre nanyadyat sat asat param paschyatam yad etaccha yah avashyashyate somyam etavadeva jignasam tatpa jignasunatmana avyakta vyatirektabhyam yatsat sarvatra sarvada. Where it says that knowledge of me is very confidential and it is revealed only to one who is engaged in the pure devotional service. No matter what you do. Some people I know, some devotees, they joined Harvard and got a big position teaching Sanskrit, and they took all these books that you see here and make money and all that. But they could not go to even 1 inch closer to Krishna. Why? Because that was not the devotional service. The way they used for their mundane purpose was not appreciated by Krishna. So here it says, knowledge of me is very confidential and it is revealed only to one who is engaged in pure devotional service. Pure devotional service is different. Everybody has to do karma, but niskam karma is altogether different. And that's what is the requirement. That's what Krishna is looking at, niskama karma. Second thing, the same verse relieves that now let the understanding of my transcendental form, qualities and pastimes awaken in your heart by my mercy. So when you read that particular verse, it lights up your heart. Just like we are reading Om Ajnana Timirindasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Nena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. I was born in the darkest region, right, of ignorance. And my Guru, my spiritual master, opened my eyes with a torch and removed my ignorance and showed me the way where to go. He gave me the transcendent knowledge, right? So, now let the understanding of my transcendental form, qualities and pastimes awaken in your heart. Whatever we are reading in the one shloki Bhagavatam could be understand as soon as you start performing devotional service. Only Krishna will approve the light of that knowledge. Otherwise, you will be in the dark all the time. It's only I who existed before the creation. All that is now manifested is also I. And after the annihilation, only I, the personality of Godhead, will remain. So yesterday only when we were thinking about or discussing about the incarnations, we already learned that in the beginning of creation there was only Supreme Person. There was no Brahma, no Vishnu, no Shiva, no water, no fire, no sun and moon, no stars in the sky. Right? Narayana paro yogo, Narayana param tapah, Narayana param gnanam, Narayana paragati. Yeah? So, that was the only person over there. Lord Brahma could see the Supreme Lord Narayana seated on his throne, surrounded by his foremost associates like Nanda, Sunanda, Prabala and Arhana, as well as his innumerable energies and opulences. The Lord appeared to be very pleased, and he was leaning favorably towards his loving servitors. His very sight was intoxicating. His smiling face was tinged with an attractive reddish hue, and his chest was marked with the lines of goddess of fortune. So this is the description of Lord Sri Narayana. Yesterday we were also talking that whenever you look at the deities, you should have perfect idea, and Bhagavatam will give you that perfect idea. And this particular Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is actually teach you when you do the darshan what you should be looking for. Srila Prabhupada has established a highest standard. 7:15 when the curtains open and you see these deities. What do you see? Kasturi tilakam lalata patale vakshasthale kaustubham nasagre varmuktikam karatale venu kare kankanam sarvange harichandanam sulilitam kanthe cha muktavali gopastri parivestito vijayate Gopala Chudamani. So, Chatusloki continues and Krishna says, whatever appears to be the value but has no connection with me should be understood as simply a manifestation of illusory energy, like a reflection that appears in the darkness. A lot of people, while it's coming to listening or watching on YouTube or Facebook or to see the Bhagavad-saptāha, they have some other priorities. Oh, I got to do this, oh, I got to do that. That's okay. But can you postpone between 5 to 7 so that you can cover the Bhagavad-saptāha also? But sometimes it's not possible. That's why Krishna here says, whatever appears to be of a value but has no connection with me should be understood as simply a manifestation of illusory energy. You may have to attend a wedding ceremony, or you may have to go to Niagara Falls, whatever. But if it's not directly connected to Krishna, it is just a waste of time and energy. Just as the material elements enter into every created entity and yet exist beyond the cosmic manifestation, so I exist within everything and yet at the same time I am outside of everything. A person who is searching for the truth must certainly go on inquiring unceasingly until he reaches this point of knowledge. Just follow this conclusion with fixed concentration, and then pride will never be able to disturb you. So, this is the message in this Chatushloki. Here it was clearly mentioned that all that is now manifested, everything that you see around here, visible world around you, and after the annihilation, only I, personality of Godhead, will remain. Now we may have some idea about annihilation. But since 5,000 years, even in the time of Yudhishthira, when the Yaksha asked a question that Yudhishthira, what is so wonderful about this world? And that time Yudhishthira said that when someone is dying, we think somebody is dying. We don't learn the lessons that today he is going, maybe tomorrow I will be going. No, we don't accept that fact. But there is a annihilation, and that is known as a Nitya, every moment, constant annihilation. About a year back, I rented a place right in front of Brooklyn Hospital. The place was nice and cool. I liked that area. No noise, nothing. And today, every single moment, day and night, even middle of the night, ambulance is constantly having these sirens, and from one entry they bring the body, and somebody else's body, they take it away from the other entrance. People are dying every moment. When I mean every moment, I really mean to say that every moment. There is no stoppage. Constant ambulances are serving this neighborhood, and every moment I see person dying. And that is a Nitya, constant, at every moment death. That is one type of annihilation. The second one is occasional or naimittic. It happens at the night time of Brahma. So, what is that? We have 432,000 years of Kali Yuga, 864,000 years of Dwapar Yuga, 1,296,000 of Treta Yuga, 1,728,000 of Satya Yuga. You have to add together all these years. And when you multiply by 1,000, because 1,000 cycles of 4 ages is equal to 1 day of Brahma. The same number of years is 1 night of Brahma. So daytime, just like we are awake, we are awake. Night time we sleep. So Brahma also sleeps, and we have to also sleep. And that annihilation is known as occasional or naimittic annihilations. Now the third one is when Brahma, living 1 year like that, multiply by 100 years, because he lives like at least 100 years. So when you multiply all that, it comes to 311 trillion years and 40 billion years. This is the life of Brahmaji. And when everything is merging into the Maya energy, that time it is known as a material or prakrutik pralaya. So these are the kind of annihilation that we are talking about. And Krishna says that all that is now manifested is also I, and after the annihilation, only I, the personality of Godhead, will remain. So, we have to actually always chant the name of that Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Hari. Now, when this happens, everything is described in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Just like we go to a child at bedtime and try to tell him some bedtime stories. It has some patterns. Once upon a time, there was a king and there was a queen and they had a prince and a princess and all that. And then in between some kind of stories, either they go to market or either they go to vacation or whatever, And then at the end, what do we say? We say, then they lived happily after that. And the story ends, and by the time child is sleeping. So, in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam or any other Puranas that you can think of, they have a certain way of expressing all these events or all these Puranas and every scripture that you see. We have Brahma Purana, we have Padma Purana, we have Vishnu Purana, we have Shiva Purana, we have Narad Purana, we have Markandeya Purana, we have Agni Purana, we have Bhavishya Purana, we have Brahma Vivartak Purana, we have Linga Purana, we have Varaha Purana, we have Skanda Purana, we have Vamana Purana, we have Kurma Purana, we have Matsya Purana, we have Garuda Purana, we have Śrīmad-Bhāgavata Purana. And Devi Bhagavat and all those, we don't count that. But at least these are the 18 Puranas which are very popular. I'm speaking a little slowly because yesterday somebody called and they say we are taking notes. So I'm giving them time to write down if they want to make a note. Now, all these Puranas have certain style and certain formalities. For example, when Narad Muni arranged his Bhagavad-saptāha, very first time on this earth, he invited the rest of the sages. I'm from Gujarat and I know the Gujaratis, when they have like wedding ceremony or lagna ceremony, so what they do, they send the invitations. The invitation of marriage is known as a kankotri. And while they are writing this invitation, they have a certain list fixed as per the social customs and religion who to invite. And that is why they sing a song and at the same time they keep writing the kankotri and make sure that as per the song they write the kankotri or the invitation card and invite all that people that they are going to come for the event. So they sing, Pahali kankotri Mama ghar mokali, something like that. They sing that. The first invitation guy goes to such and such person, second invitation to another relative and third relative and all that, So they keep singing for hours and enjoy and dancing and feasting and celebrating starts. So Narad Muni, when he arranged this particular, he more or less followed the same customs. And he invited all the sages that he should be inviting. But in that song I say, Pahli Kankotrari Mama Gher Mokli. Mama is a maternal uncle. A very, very important person when it comes to Indian wedding. So that is why the maternal uncle is invited first. Similarly, when he invited all the sages, Narad Muni is sending the invitation. At the same time, the song for those Kankotri or invitation is this. Bhrugur Vasishta Chavanascha Gautamo Medatithir Devala Devarato Ramastatha Gadisutascha Shakalo Mrukunda Putra Trija Pippalada. What it means? Send the first invitation to Bhrigu Muni. Then comes Vasishta, then Chavana, then Medatithi, Devala, Devaratro, Vishwamitri, Markandeya, Pippalada, Vyasa, Parashara, all those. Now Bhrigu, if you know the incident, he is the person who kicked the Supreme Personality, Lord Vishnu, in his chest, right in front of Mother Lakshmi. He was that bold, right? And still, Narada says, you will be the first to come. Why? Because the reason he gives, Gurutva Tatra Nayatan Bhrigu Sambodh Chanayat. What it means? That he is the best mediator. He is very powerful in convincing people. So Narada is not only inviting him, but also write a little letter that when you come, you have to do me a favor. What is that favor? That those who are not coming to this Bhagavad-saptāha, you have to go to them and convince them that this is not for somebody's personal gain, this is for Lord Krishna. So, if you are thinking not to cooperate, if you think we are not interested, if you think we have more important things to do, no. You are minimizing the value of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. You are minimizing importance of Lord Shri Krishna, and that's offensive. So please come. And Bhrigu Muni is doing that job. So today also I am asking Bhrigu Maharaj that only 2 days are left for the Bhagavad-saptāha. Those who have any personal grudge or a hatred or differences with us, please put your differences. We are not asking too much. Tomorrow and day after, between 5 to 7, total for 4 hours, if you put your rivalry away, if your differences away, try to cooperate instead of protesting or instead of criticizing. If you can just bear us for 2 days. We apologize for our shortcomings. Whatever happened in past has happened. We are not asking to forgive us forever, but for next 4 hours. Tomorrow between 5 to 7 and on Friday between 5 to 7. If you want to come to the temple, you are welcome. If you want to help us some way, if you want to at least approve our approach to Lord Sri Krishna, like we are doing as a devotional service, and if you can pass 2 good words and ask your friends to turn on the cell phone or their computer or television, whatever they are watching, we will appreciate. Now again going back to Narayana. Narayanat Brahma Jayate, Narayanat Prajapati Jayate, Narayanat Indro Jayate, Narayanat Asto Vasavo Jayate, Narayanat Ekadash Rudro Jayate, Narayanat Dvadash Aditya Jayate, Narayanat Das Vishwadeva Jayate, Narayanat Dvishdasha Sadhyu Jayate, Narayanat Sapt Pitru Jayate. So, it is all Narayana. Narayana Para Veda, Narayana Angaja, Narayana Para Loka, Narayana Para Makha, Narayana Paro Yogo, Narayana Parantapa, Narayana Param Gnanam, Narayana Param Gatihi. Those who have these books, they can go and look for these verses and try to understand word to word translation given by Srila Prabhupada, and read the purport also, that how Srila Prabhupada is glorifying Lord Shri Krishna, Lord Shri Narayana. We already said that when we chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, the same description in other verse, it says Vasudeva Para Veda, Vasudeva Angaja, Vasudeva Para Loka, Vasudeva Para Makha, Vasudeva Paro Yogo, Vasudeva Parantapaha, Vasudeva Param Gnanam, Vasudeva Param Gati. It's a Param Gati. Idle chant Narayana's name or Krishna's name. It is all a supreme truth, absolute truth. Satyam Param Dhimahi. Satyam Vratam, Satya Param, Tri Satyam, Satyasyoni, Nitam Cha Satye, Satyasya Satyam Vrata, Satyanetram, Satyatakam, Tvam Sharanam Prapanna. So, Om Satchidananda Rupaya, Vishwas Utpatti Hetave, Tapatra Vinashaya, Shri Krishnaya Vayam Namah. They both, Krishna is a supreme personality of Godhead, and Lord Narayana is the first expansion of Lord Shri Krishna. Yesterday we were looking in the different incarnations. Now we also started a little bit talking about Krishna. So let's finish that. Some people presume that Bhagavan Shri Krishna's birth must have taken place from the womb of Devaki, following the same law of birth as operate in the case of other beings. You and me, we are all born, and we know how people are taking birth. If you go to the hospital and check in the hospital and try to see how the child is born, it's possible for you to learn how the birth is taken. But it's not same thing for Krishna. This presumption has no foundation in fact. A study of that portion of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam which deals with the birth of Bhagavan Shri Krishna will reveal the fallacy of this presumption that he was just born as a human being. It is stated therein that Mother Devaki beheld the Lord manifested before her in his four-armed divine form, holding the conch, the discs, the club and the lotus in his four hands, and offered her prayers to Lord. Later on, at the request of Mother, the Lord assumed a baby's form. If you see in Bhagavad-Bhagavatam, 10th canto, it says, Upasauhara Vishwasma Annado Rupam Alokikam Shankha Chakra Gada Padma Shriyaha Justam Chaturbhujam. That means, O soul of the universe, Krishna, please withdraw this superhuman form, the divine form, consisting of 4 arms, holding the conch, disc, club and lotus. And then, iti yuktva siddharim trusnim bhagavanatmam mayaya. What means? That having the spoken by words from Devaki, the glorious Hari became quiet, and by his own supreme power and will, instantly assumed the form of a human child. While his parents looked on, child started crying like a newborn baby. So we know. And then sages had a question. Why did he appear in a human form? And what was his mission? So we started talking about this particular 2 verses. Śrīmad-Bhāgavad-gita, as it is also translated by Srila Prabhupada, is laying the foundation, background for Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. If you are more familiar with Bhagavad-gita literature, then you can understand better. It's easy to understand Bhagavatam through Śrīmad-Bhāgavad-gita as it is. So these 2 verses you may have to refer and go back to Bhagavad-gita and learn. Those verses are like this. Yada yada hi dharmasya ग्लानिर्भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानामधर्मस्य तदात्मानं सृजाम्यहम् परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृतम् धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय संभवामि युगे युगे. So Krishna says, whenever righteousness is on decline and unrighteousness is on ascent or rise, then I body myself forth. And here, yada yada dharmas. The yada word is used twice. The word yada has been used twice in this verse. The intention is to show that the Lord manifests himself whenever he feels it necessary to do so, in view of decline of virtue and rise of vice. So let us understand what is decline of religion and rise of vice. The barometer of virtue and morality in society falls very low, and that of vice and immortality rises high. It will mean decline of virtue and a rise of vice. For instance, during the Satyuga, when Hiranyakashipu ruled over the world, vice and immortality prevailed. Innocent men were tyrannized over, and people were forced to abandon all forms of spiritual practices like meditation, japa, austerities, worship, recital of sacred texts, performance of sacrifices, charity, etc. The gods were driven out of their abodes in the heaven. A devotee like Prahlada was subjected to various forms of persecution. That was the moment when God suddenly appeared in the form of a man and lion, and rescuing Prahlad from the grief of his tyrannical father, established virtue and righteousness on a solid foundation. Similar conditions prevail on the occasion of the other manifestations of the Lord as well. We already went over 24 of them incarnation yesterday we read, and everywhere there was a decline in religion. Right? So, paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha duskritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. And that's the reason. And Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam also gives the same reason. For the protection of the virtuous, for the protection and extirpation of the evil doers, and for establishing dharma, righteousness, on a firm footing, I am born from age to age. That is the explanation given, why he appeared, just to protect. And we saw the pastime of Lord Narasimha-deva. And also we had a chance to chant Narasimha prayer. Now, as a custom, it's not my idea. It's just a kind of tradition in this temple that every time the arati is finished, we think of Lord Narasimha-deva, and actually if possible we chant and sing Lord Narasimha-deva prayers. So today we have Hansrupa Prabhu with us, and he is going to say a few words about this Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam.
Glory to Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Rantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam.
Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna. Yep. Thank you, Prabhu. Thanks.
Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana-shalakaya Chakshur-militam yena tasmai Shri-gurave namaha Mukam karoti vachalam pangam lankayate Kripatamaham vande Shri-gurum denataranam Shrinvata swakatap Krishna punyashavana-kirtana Hridyantak-staya badharni vidinoti sritatam Nashtak prayasya bhadrayasya nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati Uttama-shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. So the continuing discourse on these Bhagavad-saptāha brings additional focus to the glories of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. We see that the Prabhupada used to use an analogy. He would call it the pilgrimage of the crows. We see that in certain areas, years before, they would have garbage dumps, just piles of waste, and they would tow it down the river on barges to an outlying area of one of New York's suburbs, Staten Island. And there they would consign it to a landfill. A very interesting concept, this prior to any consideration of recycling. But for the whole course of this journey, this garbage would be escorted by scavenger birds like seagulls and crows. Because that's what they're attracted to. They're attracted to garbage. So in this material world, everywhere we turn, there are book racks and magazine racks and newspaper racks filled with such literature, which was another analogy Srila Prabhupada made, a play on words, so to speak. He called it literature. Just like garbage is also called litter. So he called such mundane topics, whether they're in books or newspapers or magazines, he called it literature. Just another word for garbage. So that such garbage attracts crow-like men, not swan-like men. So the opposite of the crow is the swan. The swan has a unique ability to separate dirty things. So if you put him in a pond that's cloudy or muddy, he's able to separate the mud from the water and just drink the filtered water. This is a unique attribute only possessed by swans. They can do this with many other. They can separate milk from water as well. So that's why the sages, saints, they're called Paramahansas. Paramahansas, topmost swan-like personalities. Because even within the material world, they can separate the pure from the impure. The transcendental message of Godhead, as opposed to the literature, that which is only fit for crows. So this human form of life is a very rare opportunity. We mentioned yesterday this aphorism, atato brahma jigyasa. Now that one has come to the human form of life, it is time to seek and obtain the absolute truth. There is no concession to just being a seeker. One also has to be a finder. There's no redeeming, prize if one is looking his whole life but yet does not find what he is seeking. So the sincere soul, he looks for the truth and examines everything carefully. As I Parikshit Maharaj, the name Parikshit means the examiner. Someone who knows how to study things very carefully, to ascertain the truth, like reality distinguished from illusion. So, if one is a seeker, he should know what it is he is looking for. If he is looking for the absolute truth, then he must know what is the nature of the absolute truth. And only in the Bhagavatam and the corollary literature, Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, Ramayana, only there will one find the truth. Sometimes a little bit serialized for those who are not philosophically inclined, so they'll pick up the different aspects of dharma, whether it's morality or integrity or honesty, truthfulness. But if one is seeking the highest truth, then he must come to the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. He finds out what is the nature of the truth from Bhagavad Gita. That is there. But to find out more, Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam, this how to understand exactly every detail so fine, one in the material world there is no comparison. When we talk about the creation of the material world, the cosmic manifestation, that most religions have simplified it to such an extent that it is understandably incredible to many, because there is no detail, there's no depth. But if one comes to the 5th canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, his mind will be challenged by the intellectual and dimensional complexity that is to be found within. And people sometimes think that this is a sentimental movement, but some of the personalities who we were proud to call God brothers, Dr. Swarup Damodar, Dr. Richard Thompson, Sadhaputta Prabhu, these devotees were at the top of their field in science and mathematics. And they were thrilled to have found the Vedic teachings, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads. Because here all their questions were answered. And answered by a person of impeccable character and integrity, who ever met Srila Prabhupada understood immediately that this person is genuine. This was a common refrain. People who did not know Srila Prabhupada would exclaim that he's a genuine person. Why? Because they could feel it. He is not a cheater. So many other people looking to exploit the sentiments of naive Westerners, and still going on. But if one reads Bhagavad Gita, he's no longer naive. Now he's knowledgeable. He cannot be cheated unless he wants to be cheated. That is always there. So we're encouraging everyone that this Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, as brilliant as the sun, come to dissipate the darkness of illusion in this age of Kali, the dense darkness. Sometimes you have darkness, like when the sun goes down at dusk, and it gradually, light fades, and then the stars appear. But this dense darkness is like everything being immediately, like there's no light which can penetrate, like a black hole. That is the darkness of Kali Yuga. Save and except for the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and those who are preaching the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So this is not an ordinary endeavor. Srila Prabhupada has entrusted this, the continuity of the Krishna Consciousness movement, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, to us who are not very much qualified. But Srila Prabhupada was able to gather very sincere souls, and that has made all the difference. Because by sincerity, one time Prabhupada made this point very clear in a lecture. He said, it is not by seniority, but by sincerity. So everyone could understand. It's not a question of, I've been in this movement for 5 years, you've been in this movement for 1 year, therefore I'm senior to you. No, it doesn't have. It is a question of sincerity. That person who is sincere, he will be the recipient of Krishna's mercy. And we have seen this time and again over the years. This is played out before our eyes. And this confirmation gives us hope for the future, because we see that at least when there is difficulty, in times of trouble, like people have a tendency to look inwards. So that's a great, whether they understand it or realize it, that is a great benediction, because the focus is no longer on the temporal, transitory comings and goings of so-called mundane sports or other forms of entertainment. One of I happened to see one post pop up. One big movie chain has suspended operations all over the United States, or all over wherever they have their theaters, big theater chain, hundreds of movie theaters shut down. And so what has that done? Some movie studios will not release them because they know people are not going to go to movie theaters and see them. So movies which were supposed to be released now have been pushed back another year. But nobody's missing them. Nobody's missing these things. Instead, they're concentrating on their wire to find real happiness. So people revert to what people have done for centuries. Things like gardening, writing, reading, becoming more involved with family and friends. Things which ultimately matter more than these virtual experiences. So the real benefit would be to take an opportunity to delve into this timeless Vedic wisdom. Timeless. This knowledge is eternal. It is not something from the dim past of humanity. When you read Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, compiled 5,000 years ago, and then you juxtapose that with the prevailing conditions in other parts of the world. 5,000 years ago, people were, in many places in the world, were still learning how to produce fire by, using flint and any other bow and drill. It's inconceivable when you think of it, how advanced Vedic civilization was compared to the rest of the world 5,000 years ago. The Vedic cosmology was correct then, it's correct now. Nobody could foresee how they could, without the instruments available to them today, correctly plot the orbits of planets, some of which would be unknown for 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 more years. But there it is in the Vedic literature. So this is the difference between the Vedic literature, which is coming down from the higher elevations, the higher planetary systems, ultimately from the eternal reality. So this is, it has to be read and appreciated. Don't take our word for it. It is not an opinion. But everyone is entitled to find out for himself. This is a process since time immemorial. And that is that one should try to seek out the absolute truth. It has almost become although we have seen all great philosophers, whether it's from the Vedic perspective or the Western perspective, Socrates and Plato, and everyone else, everyone has admonished their audience to know thyself. But what does that mean, to know thyself? What is the self? So therefore, one has to turn to that literature which understands the difference between the self and the physical manifestation. The self which is not this body, but is the consciousness, the spirit. So we implore everyone that this Bhagavatam is not simply something to be repeated just on some particular occasion. The Bhagavad-saptāha, 7 days reading, goes on 7 days by 7 days, every week, every year, since time immemorial. And anyone can start at any point he likes. But to have the best understanding, one should start from the beginning. One's eyes will be immediately opened to an entirely new experience, where he'll get a glimpse of what is superconsciousness. So we can't really, of course, anyone can pose any questions in the comment section, and the devotees who monitor our YouTube channel will be happy to pass them along or answer them themselves. But we highly recommend, and these books are online. One does not have to feel that I cannot afford to purchase a set and put it in my house. Although purchasing a set and keeping it in one's house makes one's home a temple, still, one of the benefits of technology is that we have access to all of these books. There's websites. One popular website is Vedabase. You can just Google Vedabase. And another portal into Vedabase is Krishna.com. And from there you can find many links, to connect to this literature and to others who are studying this literature. And you can ask any question and expect a cogent response. This is very important. We don't want anyone to have a question left unanswered. So the whole Bhagavatam is simply a series of questions and answers, from Parikshit Maharaj to Sukadeva Goswami, like this. So read it on your handheld device, read it on your laptop, read it on your desktop. However you're able to read it, please just read. And then, what do they say? The test is in the tasting. You can taste it for yourself. You don't have to have someone else say, no, if you read this, you'll get such and such experience. No. Better you have this experience independently, so that you can genuinely appreciate the epiphany of spiritual knowledge as it's realized individually, as each one of every follower has done, coming before, in the footsteps of others, and hopefully leaving footsteps for others. So I don't think we have to continue more than that. Thank you for tuning in. If you happen to be local in Brooklyn, the temple is open every day for darshan, means the spiritual program. One can see Radha Govinda up front and personal, from 12:30 to 1 every day. And you can visit our Govinda's Kitchen, vegetarian cafe, downstairs in the same building from 12 till 3 for takeout or dine-in. Now we can have limited dine-in. So again, thank you for all attending. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Shri Radha Govinda Deva ki, Gaur Premanandi. Oh, thank you. Out.